Hello, welcome. My name is Jodi Broadwell, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Duluth, as well as a trained and certified LWV moderator. I have the pleasure of moderating this forum. On behalf of the LWV of Duluth, I would like to welcome everyone. The League of Women Voters is pleased to present this general issues pre-election forum for the Duluth City Council at-large seats. Thank you, candidates, for your willingness to participate in local government and in this event. The League of Women Voters believes that an informed citizenry is the foundation of effective democracy. The League is open to membership for men and women who are interested in nonpartisan civic participation. The League of Women Voters Duluth realizes that creative and innovative policies and practices are forged out of diverse points of view. We believe diverse perspectives are necessary for responsible and representative decision-making. Let us pause to acknowledge our commitment to welcome and facilitate diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of our work. We strive to include people from a mix of abilities and backgrounds in all of our activities. You are invited to join us. For more information, check out our website at www.lwvduluth.org. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan volunteer organization that works at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we, as a league, do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties or candidates. The views expressed at today's forum are those of the participating candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters of Duluth. Additionally, LWV sponsorship of this forum is not a league endorsement of any of the individual candidates participating. Remember to exercise your right to vote in the primary election on Thursday, August 8th. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates. Jenna Yeakle, Therese Wisocki, Lynn Nephew, Ashlie Castaldo, Shawn Savela, Savela, yeah. Shawn Savela, and Arik Foreman. Our forum will begin with the candidates giving a 2-minute opening statement followed by the questioning round. Questions have been vetted by our Voter Services Committee. Candidates were not given the questions in advance. Each candidate will be given up to 1.5 minutes in which to provide their response. The questioning round has been set up so that each candidate will be asked questions in a rotating order. The order in which candidates will respond was determined at random, and we will rotate the responses throughout the forum. After the questioning round is completed, each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement. Because several candidates could not attend this forum, they have provided us with an empty chair statement, and I will share those with you now. This is a statement from candidate Estrin-Haire. I'm running for City Council at large because Duluth leadership has a serious disconnect between what is best for them and what is best for the constituents. Year after year, the complaints are the same: roads, snow removal, housing, property taxes, homelessness, and downtown in crisis. But the city focus is zeroed in on tourism and developers, neither of which are helpful in addressing real citizen issues. Eventually, the ignored issues will create a situation so severe that those service workers and retail employees who cater to the tourists will no longer be able to afford to live here. I am not a developer. I am not a politician. I'm not seeking a career in government. I simply speak for the underserved and unrepresented, and they deserve to have a voice. I bring real ideas, real change, and I know how to listen to what citizens need and want, and not simply assume what's best for them. This is who I am. This is why I'm running. We have another statement from Miranda, Pacheco. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I wish I could be with you all today, but as a working class candidate, I am not able to take time off to work to be with you in the middle of a workday. I believe we need more working class people representing Duluthians, and I believe more working class people are needed on City Council. We working class people inherently understand what the stakes are. We know what another increase in our rent or in property taxes is going to mean for our families. We know how important it is to be able to get to work in all weather. We don't have the luxury of buying bottled water while we wait for the lead pipes to be replaced. I want to bring these voices into City Hall. While work prevents me from being with you today, I am proud of the work that I do. I am a drug and alcohol counselor for young adults. I am called to this work because I used to be one of them. After being a victim of abuse as a child, I dropped out of high school, became pregnant as a teenager, and experienced homelessness. I developed a drug addiction and broke the law to support my addiction. It was in Duluth that I turned my life around. I moved here to attend a drug treatment center and briefly lived at Yeakle's domestic violence shelter, and I later went on to work at both of those places. In Duluth, I also connected with my roots and started attending Ojibwe ceremonies, and I met and was adopted by Skip and Babette Sandman. I earned my associate degree from Fond du Lac Tribal College, and I'm earning a social work degree from St. Scholastica. I have worked at Lifehouse and was part of Zeitgeist's Healthy Hillside Initiative. I also work as a consultant for groups like SOAR and the Workforce Development Center. While I beat the odds, I have seen the ways that we are failing people in need. My brother could not get the care he needed, and we lost him to suicide 3 years ago. When members of our community are lost to deaths of despair, when they turn to crime, or when they are forced out onto the street, we all suffer. I believe we can do better. I'm proud to be DFL endorsed for the at-large race, along with the brilliant Jenna Yeakle. I am also proud to be endorsed by people such as Representatives Liz Olson and Alicia Kozlowski, and community leaders such as Dr. Mary Owen and Ivy Vanyo. I am also endorsed by Duluth for Clean Water, Twin Ports DSA, Stonewall DFL, and the DFL Environmental Caucus. Now we'll move to the candidates who are here for their opening statement, 2 minutes, and we'll start with candidate 1, Jenna Yeakle.
Hello, thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for hosting the conversation today. My name is Jenna Yeakle, and today I am asking for your vote. I am running because I want to work together to take care of our community now and into the future. Everyone has the right to feel safe, to live with dignity, and to be heard no matter what. And that is not the reality for all Duluthians. And right now, we have big opportunities to change that. I grew up in Duluth. I attended our public schools. My first job out of college was at Safe Haven, and since then, I have built a career of community service and advocacy in the nonprofit world and earned my master's in public health. I know the issues facing Duluthians. I have held multiple low-wage jobs. I have stood in line to renew my SNAP benefits, and I've participated in a class action lawsuit against a predatory landlord. But thanks to my union job, I am a first-time homeowner with my partner Chris in the Denville neighborhood. We have exciting opportunities right now to build a vibrant city that does work for everyone. Historic federal funds and our state surplus will provide countless opportunities for the city of Duluth, helping us invest in our neighborhoods, increase affordable housing at all levels, expand transportation options that create a healthier, more connected city, and prepare us for a changing climate. I am an organizer. I build relationships to create change. My job is to break down barriers between people and their elected officials and support their engagement in the public process. I am committed to making sure that our community development funds are controlled by the people and spent in ways that benefit everyone. And I look forward to talking more about my values and priorities with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. We'll move on to candidate Therese Wisocki.
Hi, I'm Therese Wisocki. I am a native born and raised in Duluth. I grew up in a family with a small business. I'm the youngest of 9. I have 2 children. My daughter Emily lives in Duluth and is raising her family here. I have a son that's in the 82nd Airborne Division of the U.S. Army. I went to Duluth Cathedral High School, and right after graduating, I went into my career in communications at CenturyLink, which was at that time Northwestern Bell. It's had a lot of changes in names over the years. I worked in CenturyLink in operations, service delivery, and engineering. In my operations, I was responsible for the day-to-day workings of 3 offices where we monitored our daily workload, our budgets, and looked for efficiencies and did training. I was able to retire early. I retired after 30 years. And shortly after I retired, my husband got diagnosed with terminal cancer and passed away after 7 months, which put me on a different journey in my life. I have a lot of time on my hands, and after getting my tax bill last year, I decided I needed to find out where our money was being spent and how it was being spent. So I started attending city council meetings and commissioner meetings. And after realizing also there's 6 positions open this year, what a great time for change. So now I find myself running for city council, and I'm excited about the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to candidate Lynn Marie Nephew for opening statement.
Thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for hosting this today. I am Lynn Marie Nephew, and I'm running for one of the city council at-large positions. I moved to Duluth in the 90s. I always say I chose Duluth. I did marry someone who grew up here, and we have been raising our family. I'm the mom of 4. I have kids in the ages from almost 20 all the way down to 12. So I do know what it's like to be a parent in the local community. I started out my career working for Safe Haven Shelter as well, but I did work in the court system and was intimately involved with working with public safety through that and making it a better place for those victims who are experiencing domestic violence. For the last 20 years, I have been selling real estate and volunteering for multiple nonprofit boards and creating housing for all and all income levels in all different areas of their life. I was called to city council particularly because we need housing. Housing is currently stifling our economic development and reducing the amount of money that is coming into the city because economic development can't happen because of our lack of housing, and therefore we can't maintain our infrastructure because of the lack of money that's being generated. I have been creating housing for all in the sense that I understand where the holes are in the city. I know that the permitting process still is not ideal. And there's other things that we can do to make it better for all. So I'm Lynn Marie Nephew. I'm looking for your vote in the upcoming primary and general election. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to Ashlie Castaldo for opening statement.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this time and this wonderful opportunity again. I'm Ashlie Castaldo. I am born and raised in Duluth. My son actually currently goes to the same elementary school that I went to as a young child, and I'm running for city council at large because I love the city that has invested so much in me, and I want to invest back in them with the skills and talents that I have. The city's been supportive and behind me at each stage of my life, and now is the time that I can use what I have and to the best of my abilities and give to it. I'm running on a platform of housing affordability and security, government transparency and accountability, and investing in our families and communities. And so that is a wide ranging of options and tools that we can use and strategies. But I feel as someone who has been not only as a commissioner on the Commission of Disabilities as serving as vice chair, I have a unique experience of knowing the inner workings of city government, but also working as a parent and within our local boards and communities. I take a lot of time and pride in investing in our city as a whole. And I want to continue that going forward as a city councilor. I certainly feel that there is ways that we can approach a situation that are unique and use a wide variety of diversity. Sorry. I think we're at a point within the city where we can't just talk and we can't just organize anymore. There has to be action, and there has to be a way that we can go to the table and listen to what people are saying and not just move forward and continue going the way we're going. And so my approach is I'm going out there and I'm talking to each individual Duluthian. I'm not shying away from conversations. And I've been really fortunate to be able to promote myself as a bipartisan candidate. My campaign currently has over 50 community voices, not just lobbyists or individuals of power, but people in the city who support and believe in my vision. And I hope to share that with you today, exactly how we can move forward cohesively as one city. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move to Shawn Savela for opening statement.
Hi. Yeah, thank you. I'm Shawn Savela. I'm running for Duluth City Councilor at Large. I grew up in Duluth, went to the public schools here, went to Central High School, graduated from UMD and with a Bachelor's of Science degree. Married my high school sweetheart. We'll be married 33 years tomorrow. Moved down to the Twin Cities, started a family with my wife. Worked for about 8 years and then started my own company. And I do that still to this day as a software developer. We also owned a franchise, so I have familiarity with, from start to end, building a building, getting employees, and then selling that business afterwards. I was thinking about what were the things I would look at as a city councilor, and as I was trying to match up what my skill set is with what the city council has to do. And I was looking at my background as a worker on many projects. So I've worked on hundreds of projects through my career. And I've gone from everything from ideation all the way to fulfillment. I've been an individual doer, I've been a project manager, business analyst, subject matter expert. And one of the things that I've learned through this is how to get a project, how to get many different ideas from many different people. I've been on international teams where most of the people are from another country or locally. How to get those people to come together, get a common direction, get a bunch of ideas together, siphon out the best one, and then, by God, get it done and stick to budget, not do scope creep. So that's what I think I can bring to this, to the city council. I'm not saying we don't have that now, but I think we need more voices like that that have some business experience and life experience, having grown up here. So that's what I think I bring to the table, and I hope I can get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to Arik Foreman for opening statement.
Well, thank you, Jodi. Thank you to the league and the fine folks at PACT-TV for always doing such a good job with these forums. So my name is Arik Foreman. It's been my pleasure and honor to serve on the city council for the last 5 years. It's been an interesting ride. I actually just found out I am living in Shawn's house that he grew up in. So part of the value of doing these forums is the chance to make connections and also hear ideas. We're all going to have a diversity of ideas on a range of topics. And so no matter who ends up winning the 2 seats, I think it's valuable that we are taking the best of what's brought up at these public forums with us, hopefully. Like a moth to the flame, I have been attracted to some of the difficult issues that we have faced in Duluth, not just during my 5 years on the council, but also in many instances years before that. A couple of examples that I'll share today. I am very pleased to be raising my family in the Kenwood neighborhood. I'm actually the only counselor in Duluth right now that has young kids. And so back when it wasn't a very popular topic to talk about, I was really honored to bring forward childcare as a topic that has become something that I think many candidates are talking about. And we've instituted some really unique programs that I'll get into around that, but I'm just really pleased to see it grow kind of beyond my original advocacy of that. Spirit Mountain was a hot button when I first started on the council. We saw some serious leadership challenges at Spirit Mountain that led to questions about whether we should walk away from it. And rather than walk away, I ran right toward the issue and was part of co-chairing a task force that has led to Spirit Mountain being profitable the last 2 years. I stepped in to help save the Costco deal. I stepped in to help save the Memorial Day parade and fought for our police officers and firefighters to get warranted and valuable budget increases. So I'm not one that's going to just do this and take the easy road, and I'm looking forward to what the next 4 years might have if I can earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we'll share questions solicited and submitted by the organizing committee and questions submitted to the League of Women Voters website. At the beginning of each round, I'll read the question one time. If we come to you during the answering portion and you want me to repeat the question, that's okay. Just ask me to repeat the question and I will, okay? All right. So the first question, we will start with Therese. First question will be, City Council's chief responsibility is to set strategies for the city. What strategic initiatives would you champion? and we'll have 1.5 minutes for response. Go ahead, Therese.
Okay. I feel that the city we would like to bring more housing into Duluth. Of course, that's a big hot topic right now. I think that we need to go through our processes of zoning and permitting and see where the roadblocks are and what's causing such cumbersome, lengthy processes for people. Even to put up a deck, for example, or someone was telling me about how they were trying to put doors on their business and it took them a year for them to actually get the permit through. We need to create a more friendly business environment in Duluth for every reason, for bringing housing here, for bringing industry here. So I think those are all important. Industry, of course, and more jobs that are better paying jobs instead of just tourism jobs that can help support the lifestyle that our citizens deserve.
Thank you. Next to answer the question will be Lynn.
Sure. So I would trumpet the same thing. So about 10 or 15 years ago, there was a conversation about permitting, and that's always kind of been the conversation, like getting the permitting through fast and efficiently. At that time, they had talked about doing a singular checklist that you took department to department to get your plan signed off on it before you can move forward with the project. That was set aside and the Unified Development Code was put in place, and that was supposed to be the great savior for the process. And it truly wasn't. I mean, it's made, in some respects, it even more challenging to build here. So that would be the first place where I would revisit that and figure out how we can maybe implement maybe the checklists again or find another idea that might be better. So that, along with downtown is not a great place to be, I would look at downtown, and that could be a really immediate solution for some owned permanent housing. There is a strong desire for co-op housing. There's some co-op housing units in Duluth already that have at least a 5-year waiting list. And by taking downtown and convincing some of the building owners to take 1 or 2 floors and convert it to co-op housing, you could then redevelop downtown, because retail and businesses will follow people. And if you get some ownership down there, it's a captive audience in order to do that. So those would be my first 2 initiatives. And I know you asked for 1, but I think they go hand in hand. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer the question will be Ashlie.
Sure. So as been indicated, housing is of course a huge option and obstacle that we have within Duluth. So obviously there's a bunch of wires and it's a big ball of mess on its own. But we can't focus on housing without focusing on the fact that there's other extenuating circumstances to the situation. Just saying we're just going to bring housing or just increase housing isn't going to solve just the bare minimum of what we need. We also have to deal with the fact that we have Duluthians who won't be able to afford to live in those houses that we build. We don't have the wage for many of the houses that are being developed currently within Duluth. As we've noticed in the past 7 months already, we've had an issue where we had what was viewed as affordable housing moving to a boutique hotel to now having a tiny home that has exorbitant square foot cost. And now we're continuing looking at how many luxury houses are being developed, and that's not alleviating our situation. I know it's supposed to bring money in, but it's not alleviating the situation, at least on a timeline that Duluthians find acceptable. So let's look at a way that we can make it so we can increase wage, increase permitting, and increase our access to either private investment or outside opportunities for us to get housing and get back on track to really listen to the Duluthians that live in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Shawn.
Thank you. I'm going to sound like an echo for everybody. I know that housing is the big thing. I think it's important for us to remember that the government is responsible for creating a safe and secure place for people to do business and to build houses, but we're not necessarily responsible for providing housing. So what that means is that we need to work together with other organizations that may be doing that are better served for that, charities or nonprofit organizations. But I agree with some of the other things that some of the other candidates have been saying. We need to streamline the process. That's been a historical thing in Duluth, is the red tape involved with creating business, getting zoning permits, being able to build other structures here in the city. So my initiative would be to help streamline that process and also make it easier for us to work together with other businesses or organizations to help out with the housing problem, as opposed to trying to solve it ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Arik.
Yeah, I'll build on some of the previous responses. So I think at its core, a city exists to provide services for people. And the elephant in the room around why there isn't enough snowplow drivers out there, money for patching our potholes, more police officers and firefighters to provide those public safety services is our city budget, which runs at a structural deficit. And the city council is really responsible for making sure that you are a check on the administration that's in office from the mayor's office to make sure that we're spending on the priorities that matter. But one of the big challenges for being able to put more money into these things that matter is that our employee health care plan is growing at an exponential rate in cost. Last year, the premium increase would have been 19% if we didn't just fund some of that subsidy from reserves. Now, if we let that continue to go as it is, that will consume our entire general fund, which we use for all of those services, within a matter of years. So as somebody who is endorsed by all the labor organizations that have made endorsements so far and has a background in human resources, that issue in particular, if I can work on that and solving that with the administration and with the unions over the next 4 years, would help broaden out our ability to do everything from housing to economic development to you name it.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to our second question.
Jenna, you get to answer.
Jenna, you're up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's okay. Thank you. To me, this is a question of, like a larger question of economic justice. And regardless of race, age, zip code, all Duluthians deserve to live full lives. And often the city greenlights development that benefits tourists and the wealthy few instead of all of us, and decisions on how to spend community development funds should be made by the community. To me, some of the solutions that that the city can be a part of are, exploring mixed-use development that benefits residents and small businesses, removing lead service pipelines from all of our homes and buildings, increasing access to grocery stores, markets, fresh food, and of course, expanding affordable housing options for all of Duluth. And this can include exploring measures that protect renters and projects that can improve the quality of our existing housing stock through rehabilitation programs focusing on energy efficiency and air quality. But this can also mean looking into incentives for local businesses and career paths for unionized, family-sustaining green jobs, retrofits, energy efficiencies, solar manufacturing, and installation. There are so many wonderful, exciting community development projects that, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now we will move on to our second question. Each candidate will get 1.5 minutes, and this time we're going to start with Lynn. And here's the question. What are your ideas to increase city revenues and/or decrease city expenses?
Sure. So again, economic development is going to be our biggest driver of revenue, and unfortunately that is not sustainable because there's no place for those employees to live. I know in my business as a real estate agent, I do a lot of tours with employees coming to town, meeting with different businesses, and usually on that tour they figure out about partway through that this is going to be a challenging place for them to live, and they may or may not decide to even come here because of that reason. So number one, housing. We need to cut red tape and make sure that we create housing units for all at all income levels so that we can actually make our economic development sustainable, have a place for those employees to live, and increase the money that's coming into the city's budget.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Ashlie.
Thank you. Would you mind repeating the question?
What are your ideas to increase city revenues and/or decrease city expenses?
Sure. Thank you. So first of all, I think one of the things that we can use to localize and really empower the downtown area is let's start having a discussion about bringing tech jobs to Duluth and increasing our software development usage within the city. That's a prime area of economic opportunity that hasn't been addressed, as well as green industry. Those are both economic opportunities that are involve very low startup cost in compared to other industrial revenues. Use a significantly lower amount of space and capacity than other industries, and have the ability to utilize union engagement and also be environmentally proactive. So I think those are things that we could certainly start looking into and exploring, as well as I think that there really needs to be working better communication and transparency within the city hall and administrative level. There's definitely, from what I've seen within deals, there tends to be a lost in translation feeling within the city of wondering where certain items have gone dropped or certain details have been ignored. And if we can go and get to the table as best prepared as possible, we'll notice that our situations are drastically minimized and alleviated as far as obstacles go in the future.
Okay, thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Shawn.
Yeah, I think we do need to get more businesses, but we do have a very big opportunity with our entertainment here in the city and tourism. That is where we just get a lot of revenue. And so making sure that our parks and our Spirit Mountain and our golf courses are all up to par, and making sure that everything is running and looking good so that when people come to Duluth, they like what they see and they're not seeing something that's really run down. We do have to increase housing. So the answer to most of this is to get rid of the red tape for getting new businesses in the city and more housing into the city where it's appropriate.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Arik.
Thank you, Jodi. So growing revenues and shrinking expenses is kind of a tax-related question, I would say. On the growth side, housing is critical because we know that we've got existing employers that would expand if they could find workforce, and their workforce can't find housing. And so we know that we've got some capacity there that we're not tapping into. The big housing idea when I ran 4 years ago was to have a community housing trust fund, which I'm proud to say that we did the year after I was on the council. And now there's many other ideas that we could carry forward to try to leverage private investment in that as well. Industrial development is really important to the city because we know that industrial jobs pay much higher than other sectors. And so looking at opportunities to build out some of our industrial parks is the work that I do in my day job at Minnesota Power. But I will say there was legislation passed last year that's going to make that more challenging with the cumulative impacts law that was put into place that unfortunately we are going to be subject to. And then I already talked about the healthcare topic. It's important to recognize that while that is our largest liability and continues to grow at a rate that we can't sustain, city workers gave up raises for years to protect their healthcare benefits, and they deserve to be made whole in this situation. And so as we look at ways that we can put together a deal that gets us on a different trajectory but treats people well, that's going to set us up for a sustainable budget long term that we can then get to roads and all of the other things we know we need to do.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Jenna.
Thank you. I think I will echo and add to what the other candidates have had to offer. Housing, certainly, and that goes in hand with livable wage and good jobs here. Housing is one really important way that our community members are able to build wealth and invest in our futures and invest back into the city. And too many Duluthians are struggling to find or maintain housing right now. Our city's old and inefficient housing stock contributes to high utility costs and poor indoor air quality, and we have tremendous opportunities right now to build more affordable housing, upgrade existing housing stock, and do more for community members facing homelessness. So I certainly want to be a part of that solution in fast-tracking, creating more affordable housing for folks. I do think that the city has a responsibility in advocating for an increase in minimum wage and supporting our union folks in their right to a prevailing wage and to organize. And certainly, like, I grew up in Duluth. It has changed drastically since I grew up here, and I think that is because of small business owners coming in and shaping the character of the city, and that's really exciting to see.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Therese.
Thank you. I think in order to control our budget, we have to look at transparency and accountability. And talking to people, that is the biggest issue I hear. Nobody knows where our money goes. They want to be able to follow that process, and we're unable to. We need to look for efficiencies and make cutbacks when necessary. With a 15 to 16% tax increase anticipated this year, this is going to be a huge problem for the taxes being just continually put on our taxpayers. We have to find great ways to increase our tax base. And basically that is about getting more industrial jobs here, manufacturing, science and tech. There's no limit to what we can do. We just have to go after it. We have everything we need here. We have the space, we have the people, we have the work ethic, and it's just we need a good, robust program to go out and find these manufacturers, even internationally, that might want to come to Duluth and expand or replace their facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we will move on to question 3. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes to answer this question. And this time we're going to start with Ashlie. And the question is, what programs and or services would you like to see implemented or changed for the youth of Duluth?
Sure. One thing I would like to see is expanding our community activities that are available. Really having city focus, even if it's just as a marketing campaign or a public relations campaign, to really show that as a city and as an administration that we're supportive of parental involvement and investing in our children in the community. I also think that we really need to look exactly what we're doing as far as outsourcing certain projects and retaining the money that we use to outsource those projects and bring them back into our family involvement and core city services that involve families. So doing what we can to help partnering on that level as a city and with local businesses to help keeping our rinks and our active spaces open. Those are really important, not just on a health and public health perspective for our youth, but also as decreasing crime potential. The more active kids are, the less likely they are to feel abandoned or alone or alienated or likely to get into trouble. So those kind of multidisciplinary ways of approaching situations are going to be vital. And as a city, we can be on top of that and be at the forefront of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Shawn.
Yeah, I was thinking about this actually earlier, and I was thinking back into the 90s when there used to be this big push for physical fitness and getting kids outside and doing activities, and that kind of dropped away. And I think we need to, as a city, help facilitate that, as you said, maybe a marketing campaign, something that doesn't cost us a lot, because we have a lot of parks and a lot of recreation areas that we can already use, but kind of push kids into maybe having a more healthy lifestyle, more fitness, because I think with physical fitness, you get mental fitness as well. And I think we should encourage that with kids. The other thing I was thinking is we also should encourage kids to learn some actual useful skills, like trade skills, engine repair, for example, welding. I'm not saying the kids should do this, but skills that they can build upon and live on and service themselves instead of having to go to other people for work all the time. And so I think my emphasis would be on physical fitness and also skill building.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Arik.
Yeah, I think about this question a lot because I've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I know others have kids that have gone through our school systems too, and wanting to have them grow up in the best place possible to raise a family is important to me. Starting on more of the physical fitness side, I am a volunteer t-ball coach. My kids are in sports. I know how rough of shape our ball fields, our courts, and our hockey rinks and other athletic facilities are. I'm glad that we worked with our state legislative delegation to get the half and half sales tax renewed, so that we've got we're gonna have up to $36 million available to start refurbishing some of those facilities that you drive by that weeds are growing at. And so we start with investing in things that matter, and kids matter. We can expand on our child care programs to make sure that as we're looking at getting opportunities for better alignment with the workforce opportunities they are and skills that people have, that their kids have a place to go. And so looking at continuing to fund projects like the capital needs of new child care centers, which we have done through the 1200 Fund, and expanding on that, I think would be another valuable effort to continue and build upon. And then just looking at how we can collaborate with other units of government, whether it be our county or our school district, on programming that might be through our Parks Department, it might be through them, to keep kids active and engaged out in the community and building spaces for them and with them in mind, I think are other things that I would prioritize these next 4 years too.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Jenna.
Yeah, thank you. I think about this a lot as someone who grew up like riding my bike in the streets of Duluth. And this is a point of conversation too when I'm out on the doors talking to voters, is that we need to be investing in both our built environment for youth and families, but also projects and programs. So thinking about the built environment, when we are looking at our street design, making sure that new construction projects are exploring how we can make neighborhoods more walkable, bikeable, including multimodal pathways, and continuing to establish the Safe Routes to School program in Duluth is really important to me. And we want to make sure that our families have the resources that they need in their neighborhoods. So that means partnering with and fully funding our libraries, our community centers, caring for our parks and our trail systems, and also making sure that working families have what they need. So expanding and investing in childcare options, and ensuring that there's access to mental health and recovery services for youth as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Therese.
Thank you. I think it's really important, just echoing again when in the last one, to make sure that our daycares, anybody that's trying to open daycare, there's a simplified process for them for permitting or zoning or whatever they have to do to get that accomplished. I think that's really important. I love the fact that we have community programs and community centers, but I think over the years we've let those go, and I would love to see them fully staffed for after school and for summer programs again like they used to be. When you talk to so many people, especially in the west end of town, they have fond memories of being with their friends and playing basketball and going to activities, and we're not seeing that as much anymore because we're not funding them as much. So I think that would be a step in the great direction to supporting our youth.
Thank you. Our final candidate to answer this question is Lynn.
Sure. So let's start with young children and childcare. So I had the great fortune of working with a dear friend, and she accessed funds from the 1200 Fund along with the Entrepreneur Fund and opened up a child care center up in Harbor Highlands. Much needed spot where we needed some child care up there, and I think programs like that need to continue. But then stepping forward, I have the unique opportunity to be a parent who now has kids who are entering or in college age, and looking at the things they took advantage of growing up in Duluth that helped them be on the path that they're on, and get into the colleges that they're in, and that was through extracurriculars. Whether it's the arts, whether it is athletics, and whether it's music, I know everyone's looking for space and looking for better facility usage. There's multiple sports teams in town who, because of our very short summers, are in desperate need of some dome space, and looking for those indoor facilities to do their athletics. at the deck right now. I know the Duluth Figure Skating Club has lost their sheet of ice, and there are figure skaters out there that really need those opportunities. They make our kids more well-rounded, give them the opportunities to get into the colleges and or trade schools and or just be better humans moving forward for our community.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to question number 4, and this time we're going to start with Shawn. And this question is, how can City Council promote and support BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, small business development in Duluth?
So one of the things I was thinking about for this is what we need to do is do what we say we're going to do as opposed to just promoting what we're saying we're going to do. If we create an environment that's equal, that's equality, not equity, equality, everybody should be able to prosper here. Take somebody based on their abilities, put them in that environment, and just let them go free. And they can do what they're going to do without having to cater to somebody or pander to somebody. So if we can create an environment that's actually equal, which we say we're doing, and I think we do have the laws to do that, then I don't think we have to do anything in particular to facilitate particular groups.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this question is Arik.
I think about two things in terms of how we are broadening our access to both city government and programs for our underserved communities and BIPOC in particular. As far as accessing government, I'm really proud that I've been part of a couple of different city commissions that are advisory to the city that I've been a part of creating. I was asked by advocates of the LGBTQ+ community to help bring forward the commission focused on that topic and those issues, and so we were able to approve that unanimously as a city council. And then Council President Kennedy brought forward the African Heritage Commission to make seats at the table for people, not just hope that they show up, but actively shape our government with equity in mind. And then in addition to that, we've looked at ways of targeting investment in communities like our BIPOC cohort. So we've got the 1200 fund that has focused on small business loans and grants. We took a lot of the federal dollars that we were able to access during COVID and put it toward programs that help not only help those folks start up, help those folks with spaces through the BIPOC pop-up cohort that we had downtown, but then also market them through the BIPOC directory. So continuing to look at ways of doing business training and education and helping people with business plans to help them create generational wealth, and then continuing to get the word out in our community that there's these great business owners here in town is one thing I've been a part of and will continue to be into the future.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Jenna.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll start by saying that representation matters and equitable public engagement matters, and I think the two go hand in hand. I am thrilled to be on the DFL ticket with some really incredible BIPOC women that are up for that are running for city council this year, and I think that in both elected positions but also in volunteer capacities on commissions, I think the city can be doing better to reach out to BIPOC leaders in our community and invite them in to our public process. And when there are public meetings about projects, about development, about programs, I do think that it is the responsibility of the city to meet communities where they are at, and not just assume that folks have the resources and information and feel like they belong in City Hall, and that is something that I am certainly committed to. As far as like business investment goes, that is 100% where we need to be going, to be actually putting our money where our mouth is when it comes to Black, Indigenous, and people of color entrepreneurs in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Therese.
Thank you. I think it's important to reach across the barriers that we have in our city and support small businesses. in whatever process that we can. We have enough resources that we can do that to make it easy for them instead of making it difficult. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Lynn.
Sure. So for businesses, with the revitalization of our downtown, I would like us to see including the BIPOC community with business development and make a very thoughtful plan with putting housing in along with those businesses and maybe keeping them close together so that they're successful. Because again, people are the biggest drivers of retail and provide that captive audience in order to make business successful. I'd also say we should work hard to support some of the local nonprofits who are already doing good work in creating housing for people of color in our BIPOC community. For example, One Roof Community Housing with their land trust program, I know does a lot to support people who have been more marginalized in creating homeownership in those groups. So as a city councilor, I think business development downtown and really finding spots that those businesses can be successful and maybe giving some different priorities through different funding, and then also support the housing organizations that are already doing good work for those communities and seeing what we can do to lift it up even further.
Thank you. Our next candidate to answer this question is Ashlie.
Sure. Well, first of all, I certainly think that there goes a long way by electing these individuals of these underrepresented communities to get an important perspective. I know for myself as the only disabled individual on this panel currently, I know that there's been extreme avoidance as far as engaging our disabled community within the workforce and within economic opportunities as well. And I know that we all stand on in behalf of our BIPOC brothers and sisters as well on this issue. So first, increasing representation. Two, working and focusing exactly how we're going to hire more individuals of those undeserved backgrounds. That includes low income levels, BIPOC, disabled, anyone that is not fully represented within a large majority form. Let's work to get them in the workforce in higher numbers, whether that be recruiting or focusing on better employment laws within the city, but let's do our part that we can get a stronger workforce together. And I think one of those things that we should really work on is approach not just economic equity, but what is economic empowerment within the community? What can we do to actually get money into those communities that are often overlooked and underrepresented? And I think a great place for us to look at is not just with working with nonprofits or helping incentivize private business, but how can we look at our TIF agreements? And instead of focusing on the corporations or business bodies that may have the most access to money, how can we use that public funds and fund those that the least deserved and really give a hand up and a handout to those communities that are often overlooked?
Thank you. Well, we're coming up on our closing statements. Before we do that, I would like to just do a quick lightning round. In one word, what is the #1 issue you are most passionate about addressing as a city councilor? One word, starting with Arik.
Budget.
Jenna.
Neighborhoods.
Therese.
Budget.
Lynn.
Housing.
Ashlie.
Core city services.
Shawn.
Budget.
Thank you. At this time, we will ask each candidate to give a 2-minute closing statement. We will start with candidate Jenna.
Thank you again. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity and our conversation today. And thank you to folks who are engaged and listening at home. I believe that we need a city that works for everyone. Decisions that impact communities should be driven by the community. And everyday Duluthians have solutions to the issues that we face. And I know this because I work with a number of community groups to improve our city through expanding transportation options that puts people first, through providing safe housing and services for folks facing homelessness, by keeping utility rates affordable, creating a citizens' climate action plan, and by advocating for lead service line replacement. As a city councilor, I will work to center the lived experience of Duluthians in shaping public policy. and I will work to make sure that our communities are part of the public process, and I do that now. The decisions that we make now on how to allocate and implement these historic funds for local government will have generational impacts, and I'm committed to working across our city to build a better Duluth for our whole community. I'm very proud to have the Duluth DFL endorsement, personal endorsements of Senator Jen McEwen, Representatives Olson and Alicia Kozlowski, and a number of organizations and community leaders that work to put people first. Again, my name is Jenna Yeakle, and I will ask for your vote in this upcoming primary election. Thank you.
Thank you. The next closing statement that we will hear from is from Therese.
Thank you. And thank you again, the League of Women Voters, for putting on this forum today. After working in the communication industry through my career, I realized how important communication is. My goal is for clear transparency and accountability from the council to the people of Duluth. I will bring to the council down-to-earth critical thinking. There will be hard decisions to make, but I will make them with the best interest of the city and the citizens in mind. I'm excited and excited for the process, look forward to being on the council and learning and growing through this process. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate that we will hear a closing statement from is Lynn.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and everyone here at PACT-TV for putting this on. It's greatly appreciated. Everyone's been talking about housing. Housing is a big issue. Housing is stifling our economic development. It is the biggest challenge that we have. And I know it's not just unique to Duluth, it's a nationwide problem. But I have to say, compared to the rest of the candidates that are here today, I actually have the experience. For the last 20 years, I've been working in housing. Not just through my business as a real estate agent, I have served on nonprofit boards, neighborhood housing services, One Roof Community Housing, Common Ground Construction. I currently serve as a commissioner for the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I'm also creating supportive housing right now for people who've experienced long-term incarceration. I've been doing it, I get it, I know how to make it happen. And that's the biggest difference here with me and a lot of other people talking about housing today. I've been honored to be endorsed by the central labor body, the Duluth Building Trades, and many of the trades that are encompassed within them, because they know they can help and support my housing conversation in this to get our city back on track. I do believe in housing for all, and that means all income levels, down from the homeless person all the way up to our higher income earners in Duluth. It is making us all suffer. And when the top suffers, the lower suffers even more. And I get that on a bigger scale. So I'm looking for everyone's vote. I would like to bring the conversation to a different level and take my experience and see what we can do to streamline the process and make it better for all of us. Thanks so much.
Thank you. The next candidate that we will hear a closing statement from is Ashlie.
Thank you, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters and to the viewers who are watching this. I would say to Duluthians, and hoping for their vote, I am a candidate who is not afraid to go to the dark spaces and ask questions, and I'm not afraid to take risks for us to move forward if that's where we need to go. I've been really proud and privileged that within my capacity as being a publicly influential individual, I've spoken at length before even marijuana legislation came into play. I went to city workers, I went to individuals in City Hall, even Councilor Foreman will know I had a discussion with him on that, stating, we need to work as a city to be prepared for those things. And I was told over and over again, that's going to be a decade away. Well, sure enough, it was a year later that we're talking about marijuana legislation, and now it's being fully approved. I took time with Lincoln Park Flats, mentioned before a year prior within my appointment that, without rental rights and without stronger agreements, we're going to have a situation like this happen. Sure enough, it showed up and happened. I can see that, I might not have on paper the experiences that might maybe be qualified, but I have incredible political instinct as to what answers are effective in moving forward. And I've done the work to make sure, I appreciate that people are mentioning endorsements and we all have our own endorsements. But the thing I'm most proud of is that I have consistently throughout this campaign made it clear that no matter what person, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, that they have a seat at my table. And I'm going to hear them out and regardless of our background, everyone gets heard, everyone gets seen, and that's what I'm going to be making sure to bring to the council, is that the people who live in the city, that they are the first line of defense and get heard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate that we're going to hear a closing statement from is Shawn.
Thank you. Duluth is facing, as it always will, a number of problems. Housing, human trafficking, the budget. These are big issues that may or may not even have a solution, at least not the solution that's going to help everybody. What we need is a city council that's made up of people that can actually see things through, see all sides, and then make a decision and go forward with it. I lived in the Twin Cities. I saw a city council that was mostly made up of activists at one point, and I saw that city go down from a very clean, safe place into a place where I won't even drive in the downtown area at this point. So I think we got to make sure that whoever we vote for city council has the skills available to them to be able to do the job, and that they're looking out for businesses and the taxpayers and the citizens of Duluth as their number one objective, not necessarily their individual point of view, but what is good for the whole city, especially with the at-large position. And I will do that. If elected as city councilor, I will take into account everybody's perspective while making decisions for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final candidate that we're going to hear a closing statement from is Arik.
Thank you again. I'll just add one more thanks for putting the forum on and helping educate folks about who's on their ballot this year. This wasn't my plan. I wasn't planning to run again this year, as I publicly announced. But after 3 months of many of my council colleagues twisting my arm and many others in the community doing so as well, I decided to do it again because it's still something that burns in my heart to serve. But it is a challenging role to juggle with family and with a career. And that was primarily where I was at. But I think if you look at my track record, I've worked on any number of the issues that we've talked on today and many more with my colleagues, whether they are conservative or liberal or somewhere in between. And I'm proud to be somebody that has people who identify themselves as Republicans, Democrats, and independents supporting my campaign, because there is never an issue that identifies as a political party in terms of how a pothole is going to get fixed or how somebody is going to deal with a neighborhood challenge. And as somebody who's had a city council inbox for 5 years, I'm really proud to be somebody who's been accessible, who's always been willing to have a conversation. And even when we end up choosing to disagree, if it's a citizen who wants me to vote a certain way and another citizen who wants me to vote the other way, being respectful, being accessible, and being somebody that they can learn to trust is trying to make the best decision possible. When often, I'll be honest, these city council roles you are put in a position where sometimes you are choosing from 2 bad options or 3 bad options. And it is your role to help navigate that and to also help bring that voice of citizens in and challenge our city administration. And as somebody who does not share a party endorsement with one of the mayoral candidates, I'm not going to be afraid to continue to be a check on whoever that person ends up being, to be an advocate for the citizens of Duluth and not just a rubber stamp on our council. And so I appreciate your time today and would ask for your support.
Thank you. This concludes this candidate forum for the Duluth City Council at large seats. It is our purpose in sponsoring events such as this to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss the issues that are important to you. There is never enough time to cover all of the issues in a limited time setting such as this. If your questions were not addressed, you should feel free to contact the candidates directly. We hope this program has helped you learn more about the candidates and issues so that you can make informed choices at the polls on Tuesday, August 8th. We thank the candidates. Thank you so much for coming. And PACT-TV for making this event possible. PACT-TV will carry this forum and others. Check their listing for a schedule of times. Links to these forums will also be on the League of Women Voters Duluth website. Thank you and good day.